Okay, today's class is the deeper you struggle, the more potential you have. When you see a man sinning, and you see a person steeped in sin and struggling, it means the potential to do good is of the same caliber, of the same power, and that's the topic for today. Let me just share the screen so we have in front of us. Okay, share the screen. Here we go. So we're learning today the haftarah of this week's parsha. We talk about the spies. So this week's parsha, Moses sends spies to spy out the land. In the haftarah, it's 40 years later. Moses has just passed away, given the mantle of leadership to Joshua, to his successor. Moses was compared to the sun. Joshua was compared to the moon. Joshua sends two spies. Right? Moses had sent 12 spies. Joshua sends two spies, Pinchas and Caleb. Right? Caleb was one of the original spies, but Pinchas was this other new guy. Pinchas and Caleb, he sends him to spy out the land. So if you look at the parish, at the text in front of you, Vayishlach Yeshua binun min Hashitim, Joshua sends two spies. Now, without getting into all the details, but Vayavo Beit Isha Zona Ushma Rachav, they came to a woman who's a prostitute and her name was Rachav. Now, there's two explanations what a Zona is. I see over here in the English, you translate it as innkeeper, but the Radak explains it as a prostitute. Now, the king of Jericho, see, Jericho is considered the key to Eretz Israel. The king of Jericho heard that there's two spies spying out the land, so he sent his soldiers to try and kill them. What happens is, Rachav hides them, and she's able to save their lives. Specifically, the door of her house, the wall, was the wall of the city. So after she told the agents who came, the soldiers who came, oh, they left, whatever, then she took a rope and she let them down, and thereby saving their life. Now, interesting thing, what she tells them in verse number 9, Vatomer el anashim, she said to the people, Yadati, I know, Ki natan Hashem lachem et haaretz, that God has given you the land, V'chi nafla imatchem aleinu, and that your fear has fallen upon everybody in the land, in the whole of Israel. V'chi namogu kol yoshvei haaretz v'nechem, the whole inhabitants of Eretz Israel, all the 7 nations are afraid, deathly afraid of you. She says, we heard about the miracle of the splitting of the sea, and we heard about the slaying of Sichon and Og, those two famous giants and powerful armies. In verse 11, he says, her heart's melted, and we don't want to fight you all, and we know, essentially, so she makes them swear that they'll save her life, which she does. That's the end of the story, pretty much, till the end. Okay, and the spies come back and they report all this to Joshua. The Talmud says the following. The Talmud, okay, you should be able to see, I'm just going to make sure you can see this. The Talmud in Zvachim, Tractate Zvachim says the following. It's in the text in front of you. So the first line, Umino Yoda. It says the Talmud, how did Rachav know that all the inhabitants of the land were afraid of the Jews? What? She was living in Jericho. How would she know what's happening in the rest of the land? What did she have? There's no Facebook, there's no Instagram, there's no WhatsApp. How did she know the mood? She was the editor for the Jericho Times. How did she know? The Master said, Ein lecha kol sar v'nagid shelo ba'al Rachav hazona. There wasn't an officer in the land that wasn't intimate with Rachav the prostitute. Amru, they said, but Yud Shanim Haita. She was 10 years old. When the Jews left Egypt. Vezanta kol mem shana shayu Yisrael b'midbar. And she was a prostitute for 40 years. All the 40 years that the Jews were in the desert. Achar nun shana. So that's what happened with Rachav. So let's just take a look at this and think about what's going on over here. Okay, so Rachav had a career in prostitution. She wasn't just a prostitute, she was the prostitute. In fact, the Talmud Tractate Megillah says there were 4 beautiful, exquisitely gorgeous women in history that their beauty wasn't from this world. Number 1 was Sarah, Abraham's wife. Number 2 was Rachav. Number 3 was Abigail, King David's wife. And number 4 was Esther, Queen Esther. Their beauty wasn't from this world. So Rachav was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman. So she ended up being a prostitute for 40 years. Now, who did she marry? What happened with her? So I'm going to go back to that Talmud. The Talmud says, Achar Nun Shana, when she was 50 years old, Nitgaira, she converted to Judaism, right? She wasn't Jewish. Amra, may my sins be forgiven. She did Shuvah, she repented, and the Medrash says she was even greater than Moses, right? Moses prayed no less than 515 times that God should allow him into Eretz Israel, and God said no, God refused. Rachav, her prayers were answered. In fact, she ended up having children which were so great. People like, I think, Yirmiyahu the prophet, Huldah the prophet. There were 7 major famous prophets which came from Rachav. Who did she end up marrying? No less than Joshua. Joshua was the leader of the Jewish people. Now, how does that make sense? The number one prostitute marries, okay, I understand she does tshuva, I understand she repents, I understand she becomes a good woman, I understand that the power of tshuva is amazing. But that makes her marry Joshua? Moses begged that his children should lead the Jewish people after him. And God told him, no, there's a man called Joshua, Yehoshua, who's going to be your successor. Why Yehoshua? Because for 40 years in the desert, he never left your side. From the age of 80 till the age of 120, when the Jews were in the desert, Joshua never left your side. He was your star student, absorbing and learning Torah. So while Joshua was learning Torah, Rachav was being a prostitute, and this was the shidduch. God couldn't find Joshua a more better, well-equipped wife, spouse. What kind of shidduch is this? And the answer is, when you see a person who's struggling, when you see a person who's having a very, very rough time, when you see a person whose yetzer hara, whose evil inclination is getting the better of him, you should know that this person has tremendous, tremendous potential. Because you see, the power of evil is always equivalent to the power of goodness. Forces of purity and the forces of evil are always matched. So if you see a person who's struggling, who's having a rough time, you should know that his potential, his ability to do good is equivalent to his ability to do bad. So the Zohar says, who was Joshua and who was Rachav? You see, every single soul that comes into this world is a reincarnation. Yehoshua was a reincarnation, listen to this. Yehoshua was a reincarnation of Joseph. Yehoshua bin Nun from the tribe of Ephraim. Yehoshua was a reincarnation of Joseph. Rachav, her soul, was reincarnated from, listen to this, the wife of Potipharah, Zlachia. You remember the story in the Bible? That when Joseph was sold into Egypt, he was bought by a man called Potipharah, and Potipharah's wife, Zlachia, terrorized Joseph for 1 year straight. The clothes she wore in the morning, she never wore at night. She was trying to seduce him and trying to make him sin with her again and again and again. And she told him that if he is with her, she will make his life so wonderful. And if he's not, she will make his life miserable, which she did. Right after a year, she accused him of trying to rape her, and she put him in a dungeon. He ended up being there for 12 years for a crime he didn't commit. Joseph came back in the form of Yehoshua, and Zlachia came back in the form of Rachav. Why did Joshua marry her? You see, this woman sleeping with people every single day, you see, that takes power. That takes a person who has a tremendous amount of energy. Rachav, Joshua looked at her and saw a nuclear power, a nuclear weapon. The only problem with this nuclear weapon is it's going the wrong way. But if we rechannel it into the right way, if we refocus her to focus on the right things, we will be able to make her into a nuclear potential, nuclear power for goodness and kindness. That same power she used for 40 years to sin, we can now channel it and refocus it to do good with. And that's exactly what Joshua did. He married none other than this nuclear power. By the way, and without getting into this right now, Yitzchak, Isaac, saw the same potential in Esav. Esav, the evil Esav, why did he want to bless him? Because he saw a nuclear weapon, a hurricane, titanic amount of energy, which you just need to rechannel. But getting back to Rachav, Rachav means wide, large. He saw this nuclear potential. So when you see, or when we struggle, right, it's very hard. We have struggles, we have temptations. And we see people, we see some of our friends which are not tempted at all, and it's so easy for them. Well, you should know that the more we struggle with addictions, with temptations, with life, with depression, with anger, with frustration, with anything we suffer from, we should know that the potential to overcome it is matched to the depression, to the anger, to the frustration. So all we need to do is get out of ourselves, get out that tremendous potential, and we'll be able to do good. We'll be a force to reckon with. Nobody will be able to overcome us. We just need to rechannel it. See, Rachav felt an emptiness every day. She slept with another guy and another. Why do you sleep with so many people? Because when you're depressed, when you're lonely, when you're upset, you need to somehow take a pill for that. What did she do? She slept with another guy. Felt good. The guy's giving her attention. Wonderful, amazing, amazing. And then when the guy left, she feels terrible again. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So then what does she do? She sleeps with another person. And the cycle continues again and again and again. By the way, it's like Facebook. Facebook is like, I have so many friends and so many connections, but in reality, ask a person, how many real friends do you have? And the answer is 0 or 1 or 2, right? She was a social butterfly trying to have all these connections, but having 0 connections. That was Rachav. But Joshua saw the evil that she's committing, saw the hurricane of energy, and he just reconverted it. And this is a tremendous lesson for us. Never give up hope. You see somebody who's sinning, you see somebody who's bad, never, ever, ever give up hope on them, because their potential to come back is so strong. And it's your job, since you saw it, to convert that energy into goodness and kindness. So may we all see the potential inside of ourselves and bring that out and use it as a force of goodness and kindness to reckon with. Hope you have a good night. Have a good week. Remember, we are here every single week, every single night at 7:30 p.m. So please join us. Any questions, anytime, just unmute yourselves and shkoyach. All right. Have a good night, everybody.